Jagrative, Jamasters. A real buzzword nowadays is witness consciousness. It stretches all the way back to the ancient Buddhist and yogic scriptures, but we call it witness consciousness. Krishnamurti called it objective observation. I really like that. You get your teeth on it better than what witness consciousness is. Objective observation. Until you reach that seat, which we'll talk about tonight, of objective observation, I'm sorry to tell you, you're not going anywhere. If you have not achieved reasonably, within reason, a seat of objective observation with your mind and your heart, you're going to stay caught in your mind and your heart. We'll talk about all these things. But what does it mean, objective observation? I know if you're here that at some point, maybe lots of points in your daily life, but at some point you've been taking a shower or driving, not paying attention to anything, just going about your business, and you notice that your mind has been talking. And what it's been saying isn't necessarily all that pleasant, but it's just been talking on its own. You haven't, so to speak, now listen carefully, this is subtle, you, so to speak, haven't been paying attention, and then all of a sudden you see. Has anyone ever had that experience? You notice it's in there talking. That moment where you saw it, not what you did about it, not whether you liked it, just the moment that you saw it doing that is objective observation. That is what's meant by witness consciousness. It's not some thing you have to meditate deeply to achieve. It's not something that you go to all kinds of teachings and this, that, and the other thing and practice disciplines and so on. You may have to stay there, by the way. But to have the experience, I think almost everybody has the experience that they just notice all of a sudden, what am I doing this for? You're thinking about something that happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago or some conversation you had with somebody that's over, they left, and it's going on in your head. You're both sides of the argument is going on. Has anyone ever had that experience? Okay. The fact that you notice that, you have stepped back out of it, even though you don't think you were paying attention. It's a layer. It's another layer. It's your conscious layer was sucked into it. It's like, I'm going to do it very slowly. It's very important that you get this. You were so paying attention. You were just so lost in it that there wasn't any objectivity that you were paying attention. You could still remember what it said. You could feel the vibration and so on if you tried to. You were aware. You were involved in that conversation. The trouble is you weren't involved in anything else. It's like that's what was going on, whether it's subconsciously, consciously, I don't care. What I care about is the step back. That's the part I care about. That all of a sudden you're in a different state of consciousness. You are now noticing that that was going on. I'm telling you, you were always noticing. You're always noticing. It's just what are you noticing and how totally are you focused on it. When you were lost in that noise that was going on in your mind, you were so into it, how do I say it? You weren't aware that you were into it. That's how into it you were. Okay? You were lost in your mind. There was not any part of your consciousness that was not focused on what the mind was doing. And it's not just your mind. People that are very emotional, the heart can do that. You can all of a sudden realize you were lost in these negative, painful, jealousy, fear, anxiety, whatever it is, insecurity. The heart was feeling that. And you were lost. And then you can step back, but not willfully. I'm going to go very subtle with you. I'm going to treat you like real adults, spiritual adults. You didn't purposely step back. Just somehow you pop back and you noticed, what am I doing? That's been over for years. Why am I feeling all of that? You were lost in your heart. You were lost in your mind. Who's the you? The consciousness. That's who you are. You're the awareness of being. All of your awareness, let's do the mind. Forget the heart for a moment. The mind's easier to talk about than the heart. So the mind was talking. It was logicking. It was following train of thought. You were on the train of thought, and you're just totally lost in there. But that's not what interests me. What interests me is there was a moment in which a stepping back happened, and you were noticing that was going on, that had been going on. Why am I thinking about that? That happened years ago. Come on, get yourself together. Whatever it is, that is a higher level of consciousness looking at what the mind is doing than when you were lost in the mind. That is a touch of witness consciousness. So I don't want you to think that witness consciousness is some extreme, exotic spiritual state. You have experienced it. It's just a consciousness that is watching where you were, watching what the mind is doing instead of being lost in what the mind is doing. The question becomes, how long can you hold that? Normally you'll step back, then you'll brush your teeth or you'll keep driving. You're right back in there. It'll go right back to where it was. The same thoughts will be being created. And you will not be there watching the thoughts be created. You will be lost in the thoughts, and that can go on for hours or days or years or a lifetime. You get lost in what the mind is doing. Why? I've discussed this with you before. Why do we get lost in what the mind is doing? Because we're interested. Any of those thoughts that were going on by themselves, you're not making them happen. They're happening and you're paying attention to them. Or because you stored stuff that either bothered you or turned you on in the past, and that stuff is stored inside of you. I have to make the distinction. I don't want to call it memory. There's a difference between something that is stored in your deep memory. The mind has memory banks, just like a computer does. So that events come in, people's talk, feelings, all kinds of things come in, and they are, as they pass through, they get stored in memory. You can bring them back if you need to. But they don't come back by themselves. It's not disturbed energy that got stored in there. If, when the event happened, you are not able to just let it go and pass through you like most events do, the clouds in the sky, the trees you drive by, the cars on the road, the people walking by, they just pass right through. If you had to concentrate on it, and certainly they say under hypnosis they can bring everything back, it is stored in there. But it's not stored with energy that needs to be suppressed, that needs to be pushed away, that needs to be controlled. They're just free to go in, pass through. Your mind is a phenomenal thing, like a computer, and it has the ability to, as stuff passes through, to store it quietly. It's stored in there. Now, there are other things that happen to you that don't go right through. Somebody says something you don't like, you had a problem with your parents, it's this, all kinds of stuff takes place, that when it comes in, you play with it, you push it away, you control it. You have to do something with it because it's not comfortable. That, in the new book, Living Untethered, I describe that as a samskara. You create what's called a samskara, an energy pattern that didn't make it through. You put your hands out to mess around with it, to push it away because you didn't like its feeling, or if you did, you held on to it because you liked it so much you wanted to keep it. In both cases, that's not just long-term memory. That is a stored thing in your mind that didn't make it through, either because you didn't want it to or because you didn't want it to leave. You liked it so much, I want to think about it. I want to keep it in my current memory, right? Not long-term memory. And so basically you build these patterns of energy inside due to the use of your will, and they keep coming back up. So you see something, it comes back up. Somebody looks like somebody who you didn't like, you don't like them, right? It just keeps popping back up by itself because it's not finished. That's what samskara is. An unfinished experience that you resisted with your will so that it didn't make it through, and it's still there. That's, Freud talked about that. That's what he means by suppression and repression. He just didn't do it from a yogic point of view of saying, who's in there doing this? I like Freud a lot. I never saw in Freud where he raised the question, okay, he does talk about suppression, doesn't he? You all know that. Freud, the father of psychology. No, yoga, thousands and thousands of years before, is the mother and father of psychology. They meditated so deeply that they saw what the mind was doing. But if you study Freud, and you're welcome to come and show me wrong, I've read a fair amount of Freud back in the early days, he said there's suppression going on. That the reason this person is behaving this way is because they have suppressed things. And so he pushed these things away, and now they keep wanting to come back up. They keep coming back up, and they cause all kinds of disturbances, and they cause your behavior patterns to be where they are. That's what Freud studied and figured out. Fine. Did he ask who is doing that? Who is pushing this away? Your mother didn't push it away. She may have done something not nice, but when it came into you, there is a power, a will, a consciousness, an entity inside you, called you, that pushed it away because it was not comfortable. So yoga studies that. Yoga is much more interested, in fact, completely interested in who's in there doing this than what did they do and why. Psychology studies what happened and what effect does it have and why did they do it and why is it causing current behavior. There's that whole study of the psyche that got built. Built of what? Of the things you stored in there. Again, not long-term memory. You don't have to make long-term memory happen. It just passes through. But these things, you are in there with your hands inside, pushing them away, clinging to them, and then you use those things to build your personality. I'm the person that likes this, and the person that doesn't like this. Where did you get that idea that you like something and don't like something? Past experiences. You've had past experiences that you liked or didn't like. Now you extrapolate. By the way, extrapolation means just, my ex-husband's name was Bill. I don't like my ex-husband. Okay, well, that's understandable. That's why he's an ex, all right? But you went a little further. I don't like people named Bill. I don't want to go on a blind date with a Bill. Well, you went even further. Men. That's called extrapolation. You just kind of, okay, with everything. I don't like the shirt he wore. I don't like the clothes he wore. I don't like where he worked. He was an engineer. And I don't like men altogether. In other words, you suppressed some serious stuff in there, right? And now it has painted everything you're seeing. So that's what psychology studies. Okay? Yoga, spirituality, studies who did this. Who resisted that event? Who wasn't able to handle the ex-husband? It's okay. He wasn't comfortable. You're welcome to have an ex. But you can't handle the fact you had an ex. He's not an ex. You're still having the discussions going on in your head. You go to sleep. He's in your dreams. Not nicely. You did not divorce this person. Not inside. You may carry them for the rest of your life. That you have all these scars and patterns and so on. Who did that? You did. I'll just call it you. I like to call it you. I usually start these conversations by saying, are you in there? No one ever said no. Anyone you ask, are you in there? No matter how straight they are. Even my father said, yeah, I'm in here. Who's in there? What do you mean you're in there? So I'm just going to call it, I don't call it the self, the Atman, the soul. No, you. Let's peel back you. So you are in there. An event happened in the past. You were not able to handle it well. So you pushed it away. And now it has determined what you like and dislike. So you stored some scars, these patterns. And now you have a whole personality made out of them, of what you like and what you don't like and who you don't like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Created this thing inside. And you're not objectively observing that. I asked you why. Why do we get caught in our mind? Because what you have stored as your some scars, these patterns that you couldn't handle, that you held, they are things that interest you. The things that didn't interest you made it right through. The things that either hurt you or made you feel really good, they interest you. So therefore they're packed with energy. They're packed with attraction, if you will, or repulsion. And so now when they start talking, and they do talk, everything you stored in there is going to keep talking to you. That's the talking head. When they're a band or something called talking heads, well, you have a talking head. So you have this talking head in there. Why is it saying what it's saying? Why does it talk in the shower? Why does it talk when you're driving? Why does it talk? Why does it just talk by itself? Because it is releasing the energies that you are not able to release. You stored them in there. They can't sit in there. Therefore, they try to release through your emotions. They try to release through the talk of that voice inside your head. Fine. We can understand that. You can look at it. You'll see that. But why do I have to keep looking at it? Because it is the most interesting thing in your whole life. The things that hurt you, you are very, very interested in. If anything starts to talk or even come close to something that bothers you a lot, that's it, I'm paying attention to that. I would ask you, if you drop a hammer on your toe, why pay attention to the toe? The rest of the body is much more comfortable, right? But no, that draws your attention. So does these thoughts in your head. They draw your attention because they are the things that you are most interested in. I told you the other day we talked. I said, if I took her thoughts, all those patterns, her some scars, all those patterns she has, and put them inside of you, you wouldn't even know why they're there. It wouldn't interest you at all because you didn't get bothered by the experience previously. But now, if you have one in there that you got bothered by and anything touches it, bam, You get drawn, you get distracted. Your consciousness gets pulled into those thoughts, into those feelings. That's what you're doing all day. You walk around like a zombie with your consciousness lost in the mind and in the heart, in the emotions and in the thoughts. Okay, but that's not all I do all day. No, you don't do that all day. What you do is try to create situations outside that don't hit your stuff so that you're more comfortable, so you're not having problems with your mind or your emotions, and or try to create situations outside that when they come in, they create nice feelings, good from scars, pleasant things from the past come back up. And now, between being caught in the mind and caught in the heart, I'm not picking on you, but pay attention. And you're caught because you're distracted by what they're saying, and you're distracted by what they're saying because what they're talking about is the most distracting thing to you. All right? So now you have to go, not want to, you have to go outside and make people, places, and things, and events, and everything happen in a way so that when it comes in, it doesn't stimulate all that bad stuff, and it stimulates some good stuff, and you say, I had a nice day. How'd you do today? I could do without it. In other words, the day unfolded in a way that caused disturbances inside. The day unfolded in a way that caused nice things inside. There, it's summarized there in 2 minutes. That's what it means to be a human being. The subtitle of the new book, Living Untethered, is Beyond the Human Predicament. That is the human predicament. And you will spend the rest of your life running away from or toward what you stored inside. So that when they teach you the outside is the mirror image of the inside, that's a true statement. Not that it really is. It's not really that. It's just there. It's there. It makes me cry because I know I can't communicate it. The moment in front of you is no different than the moment behind you or the moment on Mars or the moment in Saturn. It's just a moment in time and space. They're all the same. They're all just what happens to be happening on the planet Earth right then. It's not personal. It's not special. Turn to the left, you got another one. Turn to the right, you got another one. All right? So that basically it is not true that the outside is the reflection of the inside. The outside is what it is. It is a reflection of the inside because you have to look through yourself to see it. And if it's raining out, which has nothing to do with you, you want to know why it rained? Because I'm studying meteorology. But it happens to be your birthday, and you had plans to go camping, really special, with somebody really special that you've been looking forward to go with, and all of a sudden, what comes out of your mouth is, why does it have to rain on my birthday? It doesn't know it's your birthday. It is not personal. But you are projecting your inside onto the outside. That's why the outside is a reflection of the inside. Some people don't teach you that. They say you're creating the outside. God forbid. We're all different. Can you imagine? Okay, well, wait, I'm not creating that moment I don't see. Well, you will when you turn to it. God forbid anybody who's already there. What's going to happen to them? You're not creating your universe. The universe was created, at least according to cosmology that we understand now, 13.8 billion years ago. Were you here? Then how are you creating the universe? Because from the time the Big Bang took place, scientists can explain within reason everything that happened. How all the quantum particles got created, when they got created, and how they put themselves together into atoms, and how the atoms pulled themselves together, and how the earth got formed, water, build the whole thing. At no point in that discussion did I ever see your name. So the world is unfolding in accordance to the laws, God's laws, science laws. It makes no difference. Don't ever get into that argument. Is it science that created the universe, or is it God that created the universe? Same thing. The main point is you didn't. That's the only part that matters. If you understand science, there's a thing called cause and effect. It passes right through time and space. The fact that you're here, if I ask you, how'd you get here? You might say, I took my car. No, where'd your car come from? Who told you about this place? Where'd they come from? How did they know about the place? How come you were open? Oh, because your grandfather from years ago. There is so much that determined how you're here right now. If you want to write an autobiography about why you're here at this moment, it would take your whole life. It would take your whole life to trace back all the influences and effects that if they didn't happen, you wouldn't be here. So basically, there is a world unfolding out there. You have a world you built in here. They ain't got nothing to do with each other. The one you built in there is made out of the stuff in the past, wherever you lived and whatever you went through, that you didn't like so much. And so you kind of built a thing in here about like and dislike and your preference, your hopes, your dreams, your concepts, your views, etc., etc. Where did you get your dreams? How come her dreams are different than yours? Because she saw a different movie. How come you told me yesterday that this is how you think, and today you're saying something totally different? I read a book. I met somebody. Woo, you don't even think how powerful that is. This is the sum of your learned experiences. There's a part that sometimes I see your light. I want the light to go on. At any given moment, you're experiencing what's coming in through your senses. What are you not experiencing? Everything else. Like my favorite term is what you have experienced moment by moment compared to what you've missed. This is everything all over the universe, not to mention just even outside. What you have experienced is statistically insignificant. It doesn't even blip. You don't know anything. But I read books voraciously. Yeah, how many have you read? 200. How many have you missed? 7 billion. And you sat there and told me, I used to think this way, but I read a book, so I'm thinking this way. Yeah, that's right. That should set off alarm bells. But you wake up and you realize it's true. I don't know anything. How can you know more than what you've experienced? And reading or movies are part of what you experience. I'm letting them all be in there. It's still at any given moment, you're experiencing one out of the 700 billion zillion things that are going on. Is that a big enough number? Is it true or not what I just said? You will walk right out of here and you'll never think about it again. You will continue doing what you've done every other time. This experience will happen and it will determine who you are. Can somebody have one traumatic experience and it determines their entire life? That is sad. Yes, it's sad that they had to have the experience. I wish everybody could be wonderful and not have the experience. What's sadder is that the experience is over. It was a car accident. Somebody died. Something happened. It's over. But it's not over for you. That's sadder, isn't it? That's sadder than that it happened. If I had a choice that, okay, it has to happen, but I don't have to keep it my whole life, but you're not paying attention. You honestly believe that this thing happened to you and now it's going to determine who you are. No way. The only reason it's still in there is because you're holding it in there. There is no super glue in there. There is no flypaper. There's nothing in there but your will. You're the only one in there. So you wake up. This is what spiritual means. So yes, it is true that the inside determines the outside. But that's because you built this thing inside and you're looking through it, and all of a sudden you look at it and Ramdas once gave a talk like that. He said, if you're hungry and you're driving down a street, you look at places to eat. If you want to rest, you look at places to sleep. If you want to have a relationship, you look for people that, oh, he's handsome, oh, she's good looking. Well, what happened to the places to eat? What happened to the sleeping places? That's how you're creating your universe, is you're looking through yourself and seeing yourself out there. And so then you interact that way, and that's where your karma comes from. That's why they say your past determines your present, karmically. Why? You stored your past inside of you, and now you're looking out and you're treating people in accordance to your past. Isn't that neat? You're dating somebody. I try not to step on toes, so I use slurping soup. You're dating somebody who's wonderful, and you go out to some nice restaurant, you have some nice miso soup, and right? And maybe it's cute. I've had people fall in love, hook, line, and sinker. It's so cute. They burp all the time. I just love it every time they burp. Of course, you're in love. And the soup slurping could do that too, all right? Not if Uncle George slurped his soup and you did not like Uncle George. And that was 30 years ago. And now you get this soup slurper. He's out. And you catch on. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. All right. Now, I told you I would explain why you're not seated in witness consciousness. I don't forget what we're talking about. Well, Mickey, what's that got to do with witness consciousness? It has everything to do with it. Why you're not witnessing that. You're caught in it. It's so serious to you. But witness consciousness would do the following. You're sitting there. Boy, I notice I feel all this love and openness, right? And then all of a sudden some soup slurping takes place. And all of a sudden your heart goes, "Urgh!" And Uncle George shows up in your mind, all right? And your whole mind goes, oh my God, I didn't know. And you notice that. It doesn't pull you into it. Yes, the heart changed. Yes, Uncle George's stuff showed up. Yes, the mind was mile a minute. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. I don't even want to be here. And there's somebody watching. That's objective observation. You don't change what's happening. Objective observation. Not I'm judging and controlling. I'm not supposed to have those thoughts. That's not witness consciousness. Oh my God, I shouldn't be like that. I can't believe I'm judging. That's not witness consciousness. Witness consciousness is noticing. I notice that the heart changed when the soup started slurping. And I noticed that the mind started going berserk. And here I am noticing. What I'm going to do it? No. If you do something about it, you're not noticing. That's how deep witness consciousness is. But it's not something you do. But how do I get there? We'll talk about that. But I first want to have a real talk about objective observation. Am I getting through? You understand that. It's not beyond you because you do have that experience once in a while. You just notice, oh my God, what am I thinking that for? I spent the last 20 minutes driving. I got myself in knots. I started thinking about this and then my mother and that blah, blah, blah. Now I'm all upset. But you're just driving by yourself and you were in a good mood when you started. This stuff came up and you got all involved in it and you were not paying. You were paying attention to it. It's so funny. I almost say you weren't paying attention. That's not fair. You're always paying attention. But to what? You were paying complete attention to that. Therefore, there was no objective observation. It's just all that junk going on in there, which I told you where it came. We've gone pretty far, pretty fast. Where did all that junk come from? You stored it in there from the past. You resisted in the past. You couldn't handle it, and now it keeps trying to release its energy. Don't tell me my mind is no good. Your mind's not doing anything. Your poor mind, you did it. It's like I turned the music up real loud, and now the music caused the police to come. No, the music didn't cause the police to come. You turned the music up. Your mind is not doing anything wrong. Your mind is innocent. The computer, you can use it R-rated, X-rated, dark web. You can go in PG, G. It's basically you do anything you want with your computer. It's not the computer's fault. It's the same thing with your mind. Your mind is completely innocent, 100%. Everyone's mind. But you stored this stuff in there, and it was stuff that bothered you, and you suppressed it, and it got all weird down there, and now it's coming up in these weird ways. It has to release. It's trying to release. If you eat terrible things, your body's sick, don't blame your body. You did that. All right? So basically, now we understand why you're not in witness consciousness. Because you're in mind consciousness. You're in the personal stuff consciousness. And why is that there? Because you suppressed stuff and held stuff inside, and now it's trying to release, and that's the dialogue that normally goes on inside your head. What you like and what you don't like, and what you hope happens, what you hope doesn't happen, just all that stuff. So now what? Every once in a while, you will step back. Usually it's not willful. You'll step back, and you'll notice, whew, man, I can't believe that's going on in there. I don't want to do that. And you'll try to change it. So now that is a spiritual act. That is a spiritual state. The rest is not spiritual. The rest is psychological. It's a psyche that you created in there. And it's going on in there. And that covers both your mind and your heart. So don't you dare think that your heart is so wonderful and so pure that you should follow it all the time. That part of your heart that doesn't like things or goes after things and gets all upset is the same as your mind. It's just stuff you stored inside that's blocked, and now it's trying to express itself through your emotions. They are not holy things. Why do they say your emotions are holy? Because if you suppress them, that's the worst thing you can do. That's how you got into trouble, by not being able to handle the circumstances that happened to you in your life. And so you suppress them. Now that you suppress them, they're going to rot down there. They're like a virus, computer virus. They just spread out everywhere. Who knows what'll come up next? And you get all these weird emotions and different things, all right? So psychology teaches you, and psychology is right, that suppression is the worst thing you can do. Now, it's a funny statement. Nothing's absolute. Something terrible happened to you. You can't handle it. You're about to freak out. You will have to push it away. You better. Otherwise, you can totally break. Sometimes you have to push it away so that you can survive and live and go about your business and go to work and keep your family. But you don't leave it down there. That's just a temporary act of, all right, I got to get myself together, breathe, come on. You better not keep that down there, because it rots down there as a virus, and it will destroy all your thoughts and all your things. Do you understand that? So psychology is right. Suppression is the worst thing you can do. So what's the alternative? Therefore, they teach, learn to express yourself. Learn to feel your feelings. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not, it's not high enough. There's a higher way to deal with things. Doesn't make it wrong. There's just a higher way to deal with things. So compared to suppression, expression, releasing these emotions, letting them flow, is absolutely higher. It is higher than suppression to do this. Witness consciousness is way higher. What does that mean? It means there's this stuff down there, something hit it, these emotions are building up inside, and I am aware. I'm here watching. Is the state of objective observation. It's not that it's not happening. It's not that I'm bad. I'm not spiritual because I feel jealousy or insecurity or ego, strong egos coming up. I don't like it that way. I want to my way. Right? You know, but somehow you're still there. Who's still there? The part of your consciousness that's not lost in it. Some of your consciousness is in it, or you wouldn't know what's happening. Some of your awareness has to be there feeling the stuff coming up, but it's called the seat of self, the seat of awareness, is there noticing, here it comes, been there, done that, all right? And from that seat, you can learn to purify that stuff way higher than getting lost in your emotions and throwing a tantrum and then say, well, at least I released it. No. Do you hear me? All right? So if you're lost, I told you, I'm being honest. If you're so lost that you suppress this stuff, you don't even know it's down there, you got some work to do. And it's going to come up. Now the question is, what do you do when it comes up? It creates all these emotions, doesn't it? And it creates all these thoughts and all these disturbances. If you give in to those, I did 30 years of prison work in maximum security prisons in Florida, right? Most of my guys gave in to those. You could lose your life in 5 minutes, in 2 minutes. Just lose it. What does that mean, by the way? Have you ever lost it? Just shake your head. Have you ever lost it? Lost it means, listen to me, it's so deep. Lost it means I was back here a little bit, noticing what's going on, and then I wasn't there anymore. I just wasn't there. I don't know what I did. I don't know why I said it. I don't know anything. Just this emotion came up, and I went with it. I had no choice or anything. It just came out like that. So I completely lost it. Isn't that what it means? I lost it. He lost it. It means your consciousness lost its ability to stay above the emotions, not to suppress them, to just be conscious while they're coming up. So those are 3 things you can do with those disturbed emotions. 1, suppress them. You're going to pay for that. It'll keep coming up for the rest of your life and your dreams and everything. 2, when they try to come up, express them. Just release them. Right? Well, that'll let go for a moment, but it didn't let go of the root. It just temporarily let them release some of the energy. The 3rd is the yogic or deep spiritual way, which is, and we'll talk about how to do it. You maintain a seat of objective observation. Not easy, but you will learn to do it. It will happen naturally over the course of your lifetime. And you will notice, here I am, there's something down there that's a storm is building, and I notice it, and I just relax. That's what I teach you. Relax, relax. Who relaxes? It won't relax. Tell jealousy not to be jealous. Jealousy is jealous. Anger is anger. Fear is fear. You're not going to make them not be. You just defined it. It's a thing. It's an emotion in the universe. Jealousy. This is what it feels like. Don't try to change it. Just be aware. Okay, I'm back here noticing that jealousy or anger or fear or insecurity or embarrassment is starting to come up. I feel it coming up. Well, what do? Relax. You back there, relax. Not that down there. It's not going to relax. You relax. You be willing to notice that that is going on down there. Just the act of relaxing means you're not going to go down there and fight with it or get involved in it. I say relax and release. What does that mean? Some people write me, I got the relax part. What do you mean by release? Relax, and you're going to notice that it's not easy to relax. It's pulling on you to get you involved. It wants to pull your consciousness down into it. It's like a child throwing a tantrum. That child does not want to hear my teachings. And by the way, it doesn't want you to hear my teachings, right? If a child throws a tantrum, just relax, just let it go. No, the kid don't want to hear that. If I'm throwing a tantrum, you come on down here and get me what I want and take care of me. Well, that's how you can look at these emotions. They are saying, you come down here right now. And they pull you down, don't they? They pull you down into it. So the relaxed part is the minute you see it happening, first act is relax. Then the pull it's having on your consciousness, don't fight with it. It's not a tug-of-war. Relax. If for a tug-of-war to happen, one person has to be pulling, the other person has to be holding on. What if the other person lets go? Releases their hold on the rope that's being pulled. You have the capability of doing that. That's what relax and release means. It happens from back here, way back, where you notice that it's happening and you notice it's pulling on you. It's not a state that we normally are used to, so I'm going to teach you how to get there, and you just work on it throughout your life. And you will reach a point, believe me, I promise you, that you will stay back there naturally, not once in a while you'll notice. With no effort, you will always be noticing. Noticing what? You're noticing what's going on. You notice what goes on outside. You notice a car cuts you off. You notice somebody beeps at you. You notice somebody bothers you. You notice somebody criticizes you, don't you? You kind of notice, don't you? How hard is that to notice? I was there, I noticed. That's what it's going to be like inside. You notice every single thought, all the emotions, the energy changes. You just notice. You don't have to try. The reason you have to try now is they pull you into it. So you can't stay seated behind, because it pulls you down. So you're going to practice to learn how to stay centered. You've heard that word, centered, in the seat of consciousness. That's your center. So now what will happen if you reach this state, when you reach this state, I believe in you, when you reach this state, effortlessly, you will be doing your work. You don't not do your work, you do your relationship, you do work, but you're just noticing. You just notice. Not once in a while you pop out, you're out. You notice. Now what happens if something happens, something hits something, a desire or a fear, and it starts to create all this noise, you notice it's going to create the noise, and you become someone who's learned how to deal with it. You've been through it enough, and that first thing you do when you notice that it's getting disturbed down there, emotionally or mentally, is you relax. That's what you do. That way you're not participating, you're relaxing. It's like judo. If you're relaxing, it just falls right over you, goes right past you. So you relax, and then you'll feel it's pulling you. There's a reason it's hard to relax. It's trying to pull you down. You have to think about it. You'll feel energetically that you can't stay where you are. You're being pulled down. Don't fight. You'll learn, and this is the hardest thing to learn, but you will learn to just relax the inner hands. I said you have inner hands. Relax them. Relax them. Let go of the rope. Let go of the rope. And what will happen is you won't get pulled down anymore. It can still go on, and that's the highest way. It's called the transmutation of energy. Now the energy is not suppressed. Now the energy is not expressed outside. Now they're free to come up, free to release inwardly. And when they transmute, that which was anger becomes love. That which was jealousy becomes compassion and understanding. It does it by itself. You don't have to use affirmation. You have to make it do it. It's the energy was at a lower level. It was blocked at a lower level. If you can leave it alone to come up on its own, it will come through the higher chakras. It will come to a higher level. Same energy. It's the exact same energy that is devotion and love that is anger. But the energy is blocked at a lower level because you can't let it come up. If you let it come up, if literally all that, imagine if all the energy that was anger, fear, jealousy, insecurity, all that garbage, it's a lot of energy in it, made it all the way up and became you, the you who's in there watching, got that energy for itself. That's what happens. That's what it's called transmutation. It's like a transfusion, right? You're transmuting the energy to a higher level, and all of a sudden you become a powerful being. All the power that it had now is yours all the time with no effort. And it's not just that your center is that strong. You start feeling it. You become a being of power, a being of light. Not you become, you're always a being of power. But I don't want to see what you do with it. You cause a lot of trouble with it, don't you? So there's the basics of what witness consciousness means. It means you're able to stay in that seat of objective observation, not suppression, just objective observation where you're aware of what's going on. Why would you not be aware of what's going on inside of you? You're in there. There's not a single thought that goes on inside of you you're not aware it happened. If you're sitting there saying, no, Mick, you don't understand. My thoughts are terrible. How do you know? I can't stop thinking about her. How do you know? Somebody knows, don't they? So you're conscious. You're a conscious being. But you don't know how to be a conscious being. You don't know what to do with it. You don't understand. So now let's use a moment to talk about, fine, that's what's going on. How do I get there? How do I become more centered, more objectively conscious? Fair enough? Now that you understand what that means, you practice just like you practice tennis. This is not an analogy. Just exactly like you practice tennis, exactly like you practice the piano, exactly like you practice anything else. You didn't know how to do it to start with, and then you practice. And then you know how to do it. You learn. How do I practice staying centered? How do I practice objective observation? How does one do it? How does one practice? You know what I teach. If you read Living Untethered, you really know what I teach because I went very deeply into it. You don't start with what your mother did, or what your father did, or what your ex-husband did. That is very difficult to be objective to that stuff when it bothered you that much. That's like playing tennis against Borg or playing Mozart. You don't start there. Start with the scales. You start with a coach that's hitting you lobbing balls in tennis. You start with the simple stuff. And then as you get better and better at that, you're going to be better at the whole sport. All right. So what is that with witness consciousness? You start with the things that don't matter. Don't start with the things that matter. Don't start with the things that are so big to you, that are most important. It's my bucket list, or it's bothered me my whole life. Don't start with that. You don't stand a chance. So that's why a lot of people give up on meditation. They think I'm supposed to be able to sit there and not think of anything. Good luck. When you got stuff on your mind, it's going to be on your mind when you sit down and meditate. Mayor Baba, one of the highest beings that walked the face of the earth, he taught some things that are very different than what people taught. Mayor Baba taught, when you're having trouble with your emotions or your mind, don't sit down and meditate. Whoa, wait a minute. I thought they told me that's when I should meditate. He said, good luck. All you're going to do is get all upset and ingrain it inside of you and struggle and fight. That's not a really good time to meditate. There's other things to do. I'm not teaching you that, but he did. He told his devotees, that's not the best time to do it. Well, that's kind of nice, isn't it? All right. So what do? You take something really, really little that you can start practicing on. I always teach you, because this is what I started with, the weather. The weather can be your guru, and I mean it in a spiritual sense. I'm not kidding. The weather is your teacher, is your guru, it is your coach. What do you mean? Do any of you ever have trouble with the weather? Do any of you have trouble that it's so hot? You have trouble that it's raining? Have trouble that it's too windy and your hair is getting messed up? Have trouble with your makeup's running? Do you have trouble with the weather? People have trouble with the weather, don't they? What do you mean I have trouble? You complain. You don't like it. How did that benefit you? Did it stop the weather? Did it stop the problem from happening? What percent did it stop? None. To what extent did it bother you? 100%. 100% cost, 0 benefit to complain about the weather. Okay, that's a good practice field then. That's a good place to practice objective observation with the weather. What do you mean? Not, it's hot, just, it's hot. It's a fact. It's not a like or dislike, it's just a fact. It's hot. It's raining out. Don't bring all this garbage of your wants and your desires and your likes and your dislikes. That's irrelevant to the weather, isn't it? Are you willing to practice daily to accept the weather? That falls under acceptance. Wasn't that awful nice of you to accept something you have no control over? What about the word surrender? I use that. Surrender to the rain, surrender to the heat, surrender to the cold. Doesn't mean stand outside and freeze. That's not what surrender means. It means if I'm walking from my car to this air-conditioned or heated house, I have to surrender to the reality of the fact that I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. That's what surrender means. Practice. I dare you. I dare you. If you think this is silly, it is not silly. Why? You won't be able to do it. Your mind will complain about all kinds of stuff. But I'm shivering. Well, you won't be shivering when you take another 10 feet into the heat. Did it stop you from shivering? To say, I'm shivering. And then tell everybody for days, you don't know, I'm shivering so much. It was so cold. Or nowadays, it's so hot. No, it's just hot. It's just dig it. Enjoy the heat. Enjoy the cold. Doesn't mean you don't get into the air conditioning. Doesn't mean that. It just means you don't complain when you're not. Because it's doing no benefit. And now you are practicing letting go. That's what I call letting go. You practice letting go of the part of you that's a problem. The weather is not a problem. The weather is what it is. At least at that moment, it is what it is. And basically you honor it, you respect it, And you're going to feel this not easy. You're going to notice that your mind complains. You notice, I still have to practice this. It's rainy. I didn't bring an umbrella. It's not even raining hard. It's just kind of raining a little bit. I didn't bring an umbrella, all right? And I watch him, because I do watch him all the time. I watch him walk out to the car. Watch this. Notice, you can't see if I'm just talking. His shoulders go together and his head goes down. That does not keep me from getting wet. It's an act of resistance. It's an act of non-acceptance. You understand that? I'm hiding from it. No, you're not. So I make him do this. I make him walk, and it's not comfortable, right? Good. And so these are opportunities to practice. They're practicing letting go. They're practicing relaxing and releasing. Do you see it? So there's other ones in the book I go into, but man, that I've just communicated to you what witness consciousness is and how to work on achieving it. And again, I know you think it's just a silly example. It's not. It matters that you can learn to accept things that have nothing to do with you, and you're not going to control them no matter what you do. So you might as well accept them, and you still don't accept them. You still resist and complain and don't practice acceptance or surrender. So that's a perfect place to practice witness consciousness. You're going to find that if you will do that, over time, more and more things will become easier to do it about. You'll just find, okay, that's how you do it. Now the driver in front of you is driving 20 miles an hour below the speed limit, and you're in a rush. Well, it's single lane. There's no passing. It's busy. You're not going to do anything about it right now, at least right now. Maybe later you can pass. Maybe he'll turn off or she'll turn off. But right now, here it is. And you're going to find automatically that because you did it with the weather, you'll be able to do it with the driver in front of you. You're just, okay, I don't need to do this. Just relax. And all of a sudden, you're fine. Then it will go to this, and then it will become that. Then it will become you're at work, and your boss comes and says, hey, look, this isn't what I asked you to do. And inside, all the defensiveness goes crazy in there, right? And all of a sudden, you just let go. Let go. Maybe you don't let go while you're being criticized. Maybe you can't yet. But the minute they walk away, you'll see all that going on in there. And ultimately, basically, all right, change this and change that. Big deal. 15 seconds, I'll change that thing. And you let go of the resistance. You let go of the pull that all that garbage, whose garbage? Yours. All that garbage is in there. My father used to talk to me like that. Well, he's not your father, he's your boss. And so you stop doing that, and you're going to find that then it's bigger than bigger than bigger, and all of a sudden some really big stuff can happen. Really big stuff. And you practiced. So all of a sudden you can play tennis with McEnroe. You can get good at this. And that's what I said. When it's all said and done, you're going to be back there, like point back here, because that's the self is sitting back here looking down. There's going to be certain things that I teach that some people say, I don't understand what you're talking about. So I say, relax and release and fall backwards. Everyone gets to relax. Not everyone gets to release. That you have to feel the energy pulling on you and then let go, right? And then fall backwards. And they'll rise. Well, what does you mean, fall backwards? You're going to find out that if you're not giving in to the downward pull of your stuff, that it's like there's something behind you that's pulling you up. And there is something behind you pulling you up. The source of your consciousness is pulling you back into it. It's called the ascent. And now it gets very spiritual. That's really beautiful back there. All of a sudden you feel love and joy and ecstasy. You start using words like bliss, because that's what's back there. Well, why don't I feel it? Because you're busy down here. You're busy letting your consciousness get pulled down. So this is the whole journey. That's why witness consciousness is a step in a spiritual state. It's not the highest spiritual state in any way, shape, or form. Why? Because you're still an individual watching yourself. You're just not getting caught in it. When it's all said and done, the consciousness will release and not even look down there, because it's being pulled up into a much more expansive state of awareness called G-O-D. And you'll start to understand what Christ meant when he said, my Father and I are one, and just all the deeper spiritual states will open up to you. But it starts at staying centered. Otherwise, you're being pulled down. We had a nice journey tonight. You practice letting go of the personal. The weather is not personal. The driver in front of you is not personal. You are making it personal and making a mess out of yourself because of that. So you practice, and the more you practice letting go of the personal, your ego is going to fall off more and more. You'll still be able to work. In fact, you work better. You don't have all this garbage in the way. All right? I hope you understand. I took my time very carefully to make sure you understand what Krishnamurti meant by objective observation. Isn't that a neat word? Objective observation. He was a very great being. All right. Jagradav.